Hi lovelies, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be going about the drafting of a bustier blouse with yoke in today's tutorial. So at the end of the day, you can see that I fixed a peplum to mine, and if this sounds like something you're really interested in learning how to do, please continue watching and let's get started. So first things first, I have to draft the basic bodies using your measurement. So from the top part of my paper, I marked 3/4 of an inch, that's 0.75, before I wrote the line, and I labeled it my shoulder line. Then from that my shoulder line, I got my chest line of 8 inches, my bust point of 11 inches, my under bust of 15.5 inches, and my half length of 17 inches plus half inch extra for joining allowance. Now I created my armhole by dividing my bust circumference by 4. What I got, I marked it on my chest line, and that was how I created my armhole. Now from my half length, I'll mark my nipple to nipple point divided by 2. So my nipple point is 9 inches, divided by 2 is 4.5 inches, and I marked it on all of these lines right here. So I'll get my neckline. My neck width is 3 inches and my neck depth is 7 inches. So I believe you're seeing everything I'm doing right here, okay? And I'll go ahead now to create my round neckline. After this now, I'm going to come to my shoulder. I will measure what I have from my neck width and my shoulder and divide it into 2. I will get the midpoint, and whatever I have, I'm going to connect it into my that which I created earlier. So the next I'm going to label is my center front, and this other side is my side front. Now from my center front, from my darts, I'm going to mark 1 inch away from my dart towards my center front. I'll mark it on my under bust line and also on my half length line and connect the 2 points. Then on my side front, I'll also mark 1.5 inches on my under bust line away from my dart, and the same thing on my half length and connect it this way. So if you're in a smaller bust size, you can mark 1 inch, okay? Then from my bust point, I came down by just 3/4 of an inch, or you can call it 0.75, and I connected this to my under bust line using my curve rule this way. Measure the distance between my bust point and my under bust. So what I have right there is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to place my tape exactly on my dart line, and this 4.5 inches I have, I'm going to mark it all around until I get to the other side of my center front, okay? So just watch what I'm doing, you'll understand what I mean. So mark it all around, making sure that the tip of your tape is exactly under your dart on your bust points line, okay? So I'll mark it until I get to this other side of my under bust, then I will stop. So you all see what I have right here so far. So I'll connect these dots slightly because I want to create my darts for my oval bust, okay? Then towards the center front, I'm going to mark 1 inch away from this dart which I have right here, and towards my side front, that is the part going towards the armhole, I'll also mark 1 inch away from this my dart. So having done this now, I'll use my curve rule and connect it into my bust point line under my dart. So I believe everything I'm doing right here is very clear to you all. So after this now, I'll move over to replacing and also imputing my body measurement. So I already have the quarter of my bust on that point on my chest line. So I replace this dart I have here of 2 inches, okay? Then I'll come to my under bust and mark my under bust circumference right there, and I'll come to my half length and also divide my waist circumference by 4 and mark what I got right there. So I'll go ahead now to connect all these points together. I will blend that pointy parts right. So after that, I'll come to my bust point line, that's the line labeled BP, and I'm going to come down by 2 inches. So I want to create my side dart. Most times I call it my classic dart. Then I'll connect that point of 2 inches to my nipple line. So you can see right there, I've created my side dart. This helps your bustier to be properly cupped. So I'll cut off the sides because I will need to slash this side darts so that I can cover it up. So I went ahead now to slash it and stop exactly on my dart leg. Now I'm trying to cover this up, so I want you all to see that when I do this, the lines are not aligning, right? So because of that, I'm going to move away by half of an inch from that line, which is my dart line, and now connect this way. So this will help the lines of this my dress to align, as you can see right here. So because it will reduce when you try to close it up. So that's the essence of marking this half of an inch. All right, so when you're trying to close this, you realize that it's kind of rumpled. It's perfectly okay. That's because it's now taking this sculpt shape. So I went ahead now to replace my dart of 2.5 inches on my half length, and I marked it right there. So you are also going to connect it exactly the same way you created it. I also marked the one on my under bust to ensure that it doesn't exceed the actual length of my dart. So you can see what I did right here so far, and I went ahead to connect. We are going to replace that 2 inches we marked as our side dart. So from the base or from my half length, I replaced that 2 inches and now connected it into a straight line. So I'm going to bring these other lines down to that 2 inches. So please measure out all your measurements so that you don't exceed or miscalculate your actual measurements. So for your sweetheart, you can actually maintain your chest line, but most times it's preferable you come down by 1 inch to half inch or 3/4 of an inch from your chest line. So I came down by 0.75. Now I connected it into those my dots I have at this top part. So this is how I'll connect this into my armhole. So if you can't do this with your free hand, feel free to use your curve rule and place it properly, and now connect this way just as I've done right here. So after creating it, this is what it's going to look like. And after that, now I'll just simply go ahead and shade these parts which I'll be cutting off. That is my dart, okay? So I'll be cutting off this our waist dart and this upper part, because we've already gone ahead to replace all these darts, right? Now my sewing allowance will be added when I'm cutting on my fabric, okay? So I firstly went ahead to cut off the sides. Now I'm cutting off the base. So the next, I'm going to cut off from that sweetheart neckline side, and I'm going to cut it off exactly the way it is towards the armhole area. So the next, I'll move over to the dart. So I'll cut off my waist darts and everything I've shaded right here. So you can see what I have after cutting this out. So I'll also bring my yoke so that I can cut off the armhole. So please don't forget to actually give this your shoulder slope, okay? So I went up by half of an inch from that my neck width and connected it to the other side of my shoulder, as you can see. Now I'll cut off the neckline and also cut off the armhole. So here are all the pieces for the front. So I'm just going to label them. This one is my yoke, and this other one is my center front, which is CF, and then my side front, which is my side XF actually. So I'll go ahead and draft for the back. So right now I have the back basic bodies, and from the center of my paper I marked 1 inch for my zipper allowance. I also created my darts. Then on my half length I divided my waist circumference by 4, and on my dart legs at both sides. So after connecting, I'll also go ahead and replace my dart intake of 1 inch. So when I measure this half inch at both sides, I have 1 inch. So I replace it. So I always replace my dart from exactly the way it was taken, as you can see right here. So I'll come to my zipper. I'll move away by half inch from my zipper line, and I'll go up by 6 inches. I connected this way, and the next thing now is to cut out. So I'm adding all my stitching allowance on my fabric, okay? So I cut off for the neck depth for my back. I use 3 inches. All right, for the neck width is 3 inches. Then from this chest line I slashed it straight. So now I'm labeling it my back yoke. I have my center back and my side back respectively. So I'll get the front part of my dress on my pattern paper. So you see what I have. I'm going to cut out on my lining piece, on my estee, on this net, and also my Ankara piece. So this is what I have after cutting on my fabric. So for the back part of my dress, you can see that at the upper part right there, I added half of an inch, and on the sides I added 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. I also notched my darts and cut out on my lining as well. Then for my yoke, I used my white lace to cut this out and added half-inch joining allowance. This is for the front part of my dress. I added stitching allowance all around, including the sides. Then for my center front, I did the same thing, but I didn't add any stitching allowance to the center front. That's from that folded part. Remember, we are cutting on fold, okay? So I went ahead now to open up this my net, which I cut out 2 pieces. And for this my fabrics and my lining, I ironed my estee, especially to the front part of my dress. I didn't iron an estee to the back. It's totally up to you. You can as well go ahead to do that. But I've gone ahead to also iron my estee to all of these pieces, both my Ankara piece and also on my lining piece, for all the front parts of this my dress, as you can see right here. So this is it, and here comes the end of this particular tutorial, which is the drafting part. So in the second one, I'll be sharing a detailed process on how to go about the sewing and also how to properly pad your bustier to give this a very full, neat, nice effect, and also fix your yoke and all of that. So when I was done, this is the neat work I have right here, which I also made into a blouse, just as I stated earlier. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all in my next one. Have a lovely time ahead of you. Bye.